Welcome back. It's our third video. I'm Ashley Mariani from Pit Moss, and I'm here with our organic gardening expert, Doug Oster.
I like when you say expert.
I have the credit where credit is due, sir. So what we're excited about to talk about today is moving on to some more warmer crops that we can start getting into, and then we're also going to check back in with some of the radish seedlings that we started last video, and then Doug is also going to lend us a lot of his insight into tomatoes, because in terms of expert, you're the expert on tomatoes.
I love tomatoes even more than garlic, and that's way up there.
Wow, that's saying something.
So
what do we have here?
This is awesome. Our radishes have sprouted, and it's only been a week.
Yes.
So we have some in the container here with the pit moss in here, and then we have some in the soil here. And we wanted to reference succession planting.
Yes.
And so that means that, yes, we've got this crop of radishes coming. They'll be done in 30 days, but we have this crop of radishes that was planted first, and we're going to continue planting radishes, lettuce, all these other cool weather crops to keep them going through the season, so that when our tomatoes are ready, we will have things like lettuce and radishes.
Full salad, full salad. So you say cool weather crops and warm weather crops, but even though radish is considered a cool weather crop, we can still continue planting that in June or July?
Well, actually, we probably have one more sowing of the radishes, but the other things, like especially lettuce and arugula and other greens like that, we can give them some protection from the sun, and we need to have the lettuce planted about every 2 or 3 weeks so that it continues to produce for us. Sometimes it's going to get real hot and that lettuce is just going to bolt and we'll just start again. It's worth the risk because you want to be able to harvest lettuce the whole season.
Yeah, and then if it bolts, you can just take the seeds.
Bolts. You are a gardener now. I like that. That means going to seed.
Right.
All right, so these guys are doing good. Now I want to show how we're going to plant some of those warm weather crops.
Okay.
Our bush beans.
Yum. Love beans.
So tomatoes are the #1 crop for home gardeners.
Yes.
#2, beans.
Yum.
And when I'm organizing my seeds, you know, after a while, you're going to get a lot of seeds. You're going to have them around. I want to keep them dry and cool. And I have got early in the garden sowing. I've got a bag of early start indoors and a bag of direct sow late, it's called.
Oh.
So I'm not going to miss anything. In the past, when I've had all the seeds together, I've looked at them a month later and said, oh, I should have had these in the ground already. So these all...
I love that technique.
These are all plants or seeds that are going to go in now. We've got our cucumbers in here, some other greens, summer greens like Swiss chard, and I'm going to find some...
Cucumbers, I found, are very easy to grow, personally, and just everyone loves a fresh cucumber.
One little trick for cucumbers, if you can, grow them up, grow them off the ground.
Okay.
Get them up onto a trellis of some type. They'll be better fighting off the cucumber beetle.
Okay.
So I put some pit moss pine in here.
That.
I've got some decent compost in here, but this is a bag compost. It's a little heavy. And
pit moss will help aerate that.
Right, it's not my homemade compost, and so we're going to lighten it up a little bit.
A little extra love.
Yep.
Beautiful.
And again, beans will also be a succession crop. We'll start some today. I'll start some in a week, especially bush beans.
Okay.
Bush beans, they produce a lot sooner than pole beans, but they're done sooner too.
Bush beans or pole beans, can you do any of those in a container if you don't have as much space?
Definitely.
Okay.
With the pole beans, you're going to want some kind of support.
Okay.
Grow them up a trellis again.
Yeah.
For the bush beans,
I get a couple of those sticks too, just like bamboo sticks that you can find at a Home Depot. Those seem to work really well.
These have a great name.
What are they?
Dragon's tongue.
Dragon's tongue. Wow.
And beans are great for kids.
Very cool.
Because you do have those big seeds. And give them about an inch between each other.
How deep are we sowing these?
Hey, just kind of push them down there.
Okay.
Anywhere you throw them, they're going to...
When I first started gardening, I was so anal about how deep, or I would read the instructions to a T, and I realized you can be a lot less anal about it.
Right, just kind of press
get them in
there, right.
Especially if you overseed like I tend to do.
And we all do. You know, that's the thing, we all do. And we'll come through here and we'll thin them out. And again, you know what, those young ones, when they come up, they're also edible as just the shoots.
Yum, so some more microgreens?
That's right, and that's part of the fun of gardening.
Yeah.
We've only used a half pack in this little spot here. We'll plant the rest of them, like I said, in about a week or so. But beans, cucumbers, squash, other vine crops, this is all the right time to plant those.
Okay.
But if you do miss this little window, you've got a long window. Your bush beans
nice.
You could plant as late as mid-July and get another crop, and we'll continue to do that.
Oh, fantastic. Well, that's great to know. It never stops. You can always keep eating.
That's part of gardening. It never stops.
Yeah.
Right,
absolutely.
let's work on some tomatoes.
Yum,
right?
my favorite. So we're here looking at some tomato plants we're going to get ready to plant. And I was told that if I don't get my tomatoes in like right now, I'm not going to have any tomatoes by the end of the season.
You know, that is true with a late variety. When we talk about tomatoes, these here are called red racer.
Red racer.
They put on tomatoes really quick. Things like Sun Gold and other cherry tomatoes put on things quick. Some of the big beefsteaks, though, take 100 days. Those need to go in now. But the importance of succession planting for tomatoes is to beat the fungal diseases. And so when you have a really wet season, like we've had the last 2 seasons, when those plants stay wet and they're planted early in May, you know, yes, we have nice warm day today, but it's going to get cool again. And cool, rainy weather means fungal diseases. So we plant some now, but we leave room in the garden to continue to plant. And believe it or not, I will put something like a red racer in the ground on July 4th. They love the hot.
Late.
They love the warm soil. They love the warm air temperatures. But I'm choosing a tomato that's going to put them on quick. That's all.
So you'll have them in late July, August. You'll be
exactly, and they will have no fungal diseases. And that's one of the reasons we're going to be planting in these containers filled with pit moss.
Yes.
The advantage of putting in a mix like pit moss is we know there are no fungal spores in there already.
Very clean. Yes.
All this here is all going to have fungal spores in it. Every part of the garden, there's no way to get rid of them. But when you have a container and you're putting something new into it, you don't have to worry about that. Now these things are called earth boxes. And so whenever we're talking about planting a tomato in a container, it needs to be big or it needs to be like this, called self-watering. We add water through this tube. There's water down in the bottom. And as long as that water stays in there, this soil cannot dry out. If this soil or in any container dries out when you're growing a tomato, it's going to get a thing called blossom end rot. You're going to wait all year for this tomato, and you're going to look at the bottom and it's going to have a black mark on it. That's a watering issue. That's why we're choosing, and there's lots of different self-watering containers, and you can even make your own. And so I want to show a technique, though, of planting.
So the big key for tomatoes, do not let them dry out. That's what I'm hearing.
Exactly. You're going to get blossom end rot if you do. So this is a technique called horizontal planting. I'm going to do this one horizontally. You're going to do that one conventionally.
Okay.
With red racer here, I'm going to pinch off these leaves.
So the bottom ones. Now, what's the purpose of you pinching off those bottom ones?
You're going to see.
All right.
And I'm going to knock it out of here.
Oh, okay.
And it's going to be a horizontal planting. So look at that.
Interesting.
And that is all going to be buried.
And now I've also heard that tomatoes do not like their roots being exposed. They like to be covered, so to speak.
Exactly. And what's going to happen here is this whole stem is going to become roots. The stem is up high, where it's going to be nice and warm. You can actually put that in the corner.
This corner right here?
Yep, dig down in there, perfect. And the stem is all going to become roots, but it's up high where it can get water and it can get warmth. Tomatoes, beans, cucumbers, vine crops, peppers, they all want it to be hot. And so that's why we do the horizontal planting. And this part of the plant, in a day, will stand straight up on its own. And let me tell you about this tomato cage. I make these out of something called concrete reinforcing wire. This comes in a roll. They roll it down and you put like a sidewalk on top of it. It's very inexpensive. You can cut them with a big pair of pliers called lineman's pliers, which are inexpensive. And,
so you can really roll them out to whatever size you want.
Yeah, and this one, they're all going to be 5 foot tall. But you decide how far around you want it. This one is, you know, I have some that are...
Well, I saw you laid it down there and you were stomping on it to get it more narrow to fit in this, so it's very versatile.
And it'll last forever.
Yeah.
And this is a cage where both these plants will use it to climb up. And have support. I won't have to worry about staking them. Now, some people love staking them, but let's talk a little bit about pruning.
Yes, please. I need some help in terming, because you were peeling these off, and I was asking why were you picking the bottoms off?
In this case, it's just so that you don't have you have an empty stem here. It's going to become roots. Now, some people like to prune out the suckers, which are in the crotch of the plant. You'll come out, you'll see this sucker. They like to prune them out, thinking they're going to get more tomatoes.
Okay.
So that's one way to look at it. Some other people who are really lazy, I just let them grow. I get plenty of tomatoes. I don't worry about it.
Okay.
I don't worry about it. One little trick when you're planting outside is I do take off those bottom leaves so they're further away from the spores that would be in the soil.
Okay,
Here we
those
don't have to
spores.
worry about that because we don't have the fungal spores. Normally an earth box is like that. It has that kind of plastic container or plastic
this is
lid on the top.
interesting.
But on this one, since I was horizontal planting, I didn't do it that way. I left it off. I will put some plastic on top here because I want to be the guy supplying the water, not raining because we'll get too much water. The water's already down in there. That's what the plastic is on the top. And before we started planting, and I do this outdoors too, check out these little things.
These are really cool. Like, where do you find these things?
That was a friend of mine that runs a factory that redid their lighting, and he knew I would want them. Well, those have been sitting on top of these containers for a long time, and that's warming up the soil. We want the soil to be really warm for tomatoes. All right, now I want to show you something that every tomato grower should try.
Okay.
Well, check this
Beautiful.
out, Ashley.
This is what we have to look forward to. So tell me about this baby.
When you're creating a victory garden, don't be afraid to go to the nursery and spend a couple extra dollars on getting a big tomato plant like this. I grew this one in my greenhouse, and I don't care what my gardening friends say, it's not cheating. When you start with a big plant like this, you're going to get tomatoes much earlier.
Yeah.
And so why not spend a couple bucks here and there just to throw a couple of these plants in?
Yeah.
That's part of the succession planting, starting with this big plant, and then those little plants will catch up.
And then working towards your own, and you still get to eat the food you've grown your own.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, perfect to get your victory garden started. So if you're not really ready to start seed starting, we definitely encourage you at least to go to your local greenhouse and get an already grown tomato plant.
This one is early girl.
Okay.
But some of my other favorites is that one cherry I told you about. Sun Gold is a little cherry. There's one called Heart of Italy. My wife's Italian.
Yeah.
I grow Matt's Wild Cherry because my son's name is Matt. So sometimes it might just be because of a name, because of something that reminds me of somebody. Cherokee Purple is a great heirloom that you would love. It sets in these trusses of 3 reliably and has this very intense tomato flavor, but you can't go wrong with any tomato when it's grown in the garden.
And it's so much more flavor. I think that's the one thing you'll notice right away is eating your own food. There's a level of pride there, but it also just always tastes so much better.
When you get one of those big beef steaks, let me give you a complicated recipe. 2 pieces of white bread, mayonnaise, 1 slice, put them together and go to heaven.
I think I can handle that. Well, we'll look forward to next week. We're going to talk even more about tomatoes and get more of his tips and tricks and some more succession planting ideas to keep up your victory garden this year. So we'll see you then.